Hey everyone, AM1 on CAM1. Today I am in Marston Mills in the Cape Cod area and I am playing Burgess Park.
Burgess is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, disc golf course around. Every source that I've checked reports that it was first established back in 1990. For today's episode, we're going to see how the old girl is holding up. The course is built on town lands and it's free to play. However, it is stacked with a number of the classy kinds of features you'd expect to find at a pay-to-play course. For example, the baskets are taped for glow tournaments, or those evening rounds that test the end of daylight. And the course has a net where you can warm up your arm. There is a huge open field where you can go and warm up your arm and practice your drives. However, fair warning, that field is also the fairways for holes 11, 12, and 18, I think it is. So if you're out there, be courteous to those who might be teeing off. Nearly all of the tee boxes are constructed with pavers, and there are quality signs at each hole. Despite these upgrades, the course still only scores a 3 on the birdie scale. There are no permanent facilities for restrooms or anything like that. Par on all of the layouts is the same, it's 54. There's no practice basket to warm up at. Most people use hole 18's basket, and there's little difference between the different layouts that they have. Keep in mind, a 3 on the birdie scale is not a bad score. Most courses are just a parking lot, tee pads, baskets, and some space in between them. Now that we have the features sorted out, we need to see how the course actually plays. So, let's head to hole 1. I played from the gold tee, which is pictured at the bottom left of this sign. At 215 feet, this is a very short hole, and the key design element is the wall of bushes that guards the basket. I turned this putter shot just a bit too much. I think a forehand dump is probably the better throw, but I haven't mastered that shot. So I'm left with a short putt that is tricky only because I'm sticking my rump into a patch of briars. And that's all for hole 1. Hole 2 is another short one at 250 feet. The tee sign doesn't make it look too bad, but this is the tee shot. I threw my trusty harp, and it did a lovely job of plunging through the gap next to the one that I was aiming for. I got very lucky with that drive. The disc clipped a tree branch and fell short, but I probably deserved much worse. If you get through the gap clean with a right-hand hyzer, you can park this basket for a birdie. Me? I'm trying to par it from inside a hobbit hole. Hole 3 is a bit of an odd duck. There is no gold tee pad, but there are 2 basket positions. This is where things get weird. See, the B position is also hole 10's A position. So if they want to move hole 3 to the B position, they must also move hole 10's basket to its alternate position. I'm throwing a first-run Latitude 64 Royal Hope, which proved to be a workhorse on this course. This drive is even luckier than the last, and I ended up parked at the A position for an easy birdie. Let me pause for just a second here. I want to talk for a minute about these tee pads. Most every hole has a nice pavered tee box. The builders used a good quality paver, and they set them level. However, the surface has sunken with use, and that means it looks like they're filling up with water when it rains. It's a rainstorm. That could lead to problems later on, especially with New England's freeze and thaw cycles. Contrast that pad on the left with this one on the right. On the right, you can see how the top of the pad has some curvature. It's slightly domed. That allows water to run off. Also, the pavers are set a good 3/4 of an inch above the wood, so as the stones settle, they still remain above the wooden frame. Water doesn't pool on these. The one on the right also has an interlocking pattern of 2 different paver sizes, which I'm told is more resistant to shifting. I don't know how critical the pattern is. That's just something that the professional masons recommended to me. But please, don't get the wrong impression. These are all very minor issues. That's not the reason why I wanted to talk about tee pads. This is the reason I want to talk about tee pads. This is what happens when you cut costs and go the cheap route with pavers. These are what's called patio stones, and on a large surface like a patio, these work fine. However, on relatively small tee boxes, stones of this type just don't sit well. So yeah, doing it right is expensive and it takes an awful lot of work. Right, moving on to hole 4. This is another short one. From the gold tee, it's only about 215 feet. And once again, the map does not do the shot justice. This is a very tight gap. Probably best for a right-hand forehand player, but a right-hand hyzer can get the job done as well. It's just really tricky. I nailed the backhand line, just tagging a little bit of cabbage on the way through. So I landed short, left myself with a long putt. Since my golf game is utterly predictable, let's talk about another nice feature. The greens are all marked with little blue whiskers, so when I make excuses about putts being outside the circle, I have definitive proof. Hole 5 does not have a gold tee box. It has a gold basket. All 290 feet of this hole are crowded with trees, but the lines aren't unfair. I tried sneaking through a narrow gap on the left and got hung up. The gap on the right side is wider and probably the better choice. A putter from out from underneath yet another patch of briars allowed me to save par. Next we have yet another sub 300 foot hole. Hole 6 is literally straightforward. There's only a blue tee and a single basket, no gold option here. You'll need a nice skinny line to get up the fairway and a bit more distance than I got. The green is pretty well guarded, but I was close enough to get through. Easy par. So easy I had time to make course adjustments. You're welcome. Hole 7 is a bit more challenging. There's a significant elevation in front of the tee pad, making it feel like all of its 305 feet. The sign doesn't show A and B positions, but the last time I played here, the basket was located in the top left corner. Not knowing exactly where the basket would be, I was lucky to land a drive in a spot where I had options. Simple upshot gets me there. After the putt, I'm pointing to the area where I think the alternate pin position is supposed to be. Okay, it's time for a 7th hole stretch. In this episode, I'm sure it looks like my throw is very rigid and methodical. I'm really putting the M in this episode of AM1 on CAM1. The reason is simple. I'm rebuilding. There's something that has always bothered me about my throw, and I'm trying to fix it. This is me warming up before my round, and as I make this first throw, you'll see that I drop my elbow and kind of scoop the shot at the very end. Let me show that again. So here we are in slow-mo. You can see I'm already dropping the disc well below my chest. Then I bring it up to shoulder height. As I pull through right here, that's where you can see my elbow starting to drop. The disc is coming up, and then I scoop it. All right, so here we have my second practice throw. We'll see the same thing again. I'll step up, drop the disc, and then right there, you see my elbows pointed down, disc up before I release. All right, so this is my third throw. Just warming up with the same 2 putters, getting a little bit better there. And then finally on this fourth one, I think you'll see as I'm pulling through, see if I can freeze frame it. We can see I'm pulling through much straighter than I was in the earlier throws. That's what I'm looking for. All right, so that's why I look like a noob out there in the practice field for the first time, because I kind of am. All right, back to the course. This hole may be my favorite here. The fairway starts with a slight incline for the first 100 feet or so, but then the floor drops out and it curls to the right. It's only about 260 feet, but it's such a rewarding shot if you hit it properly. I believe I threw my Warden here. It's well beat in and it holds a turn a little bit better than the Hope. And since the fairway is hidden by the rise and fall of the hill, I turned on the camera to walk this one. Now, of course, as you would expect, I missed the birdie putt and have to settle for par. On this one, the gold tee is actually the shorter of the 2 positions. It's only 205 feet, but the upward slope is steeper than it looks on camera, and there are plenty of random trees in the fairway. Now, I'd love to tell you that I plan to take this outside route, But it was about 10:30 in the morning as I was playing this hole, and temps had already reached 88 degrees. They would reach mid-90s before the end of the round, and I was starting to feel the heat. Hole 10 is another one with only a single tee box. Instead, there are 2 pin positions. Now, so far, the baskets have all been in the A position. That means we finally get a hole over 300 feet. As I'm lining up my shot, you'll notice there's a white Mando sign on a tree about 50 feet up the fairway. That's because hole 17's tee box is right off to the side. And that brings us to one of the problems with the course. It's a relatively small plot of land to fit 18 holes on. There's just not much room here for the course to grow. Sorry, I blocked the camera with my body on this one. That mediocre upshot leaves me with a long putt from around circle's edge here, which I miss, of course. Right. Hole 11, now we're talking. The basket is in the A position, and there is no gold tee, so we're looking at a 440-foot shot through an open field. I, in my infinite wisdom, decided it was time for me to practice my technique with something faster than a harp. I reached for my destroyer, which I immediately put on a high hyzer that faded way out.
How you doing? Good, how are you? Well, I like that throwback, but otherwise all right. Hear that? Well.
Luckily, I recovered with a clean upshot. Now my first putt here hits high in the chains. I can feel myself getting sloppy with the heat, so I go ahead and take another shot at it just to keep myself focused. That's better. Hole 12 is another wide open hole playing parallel to hole 11. An accurate drive here will get you an easy birdie look. I quickly abandoned the idea of throwing my destroyers, so that's my harp again going out there. But as I'm watching this footage, I can see my technique is getting sloppy again. All right, it leaves me with a simple enough upshot, and then it's just a matter of picking it up and pretty much dropping it into the basket. Hole 13 starts off level, then drops a good 20 feet to a sloped green. Beyond that green, there's an OB zone. You can throw this one forehand or backhand, but it's a pretty touchy shot either way. I had a nice line with my putter here, but I guess I gave it a bit too much gas. Well, that tree probably saved me from going long and probably OB. Doesn't matter though, because I'm about to miss the putt here and it's going to try and roll OB anyway. Thankfully, it curled up for me off camera, and I'm just going to take this as a drop in and get off the hole. With hole 14, we're back to the short stuff. You can play straight up the middle, or you can take the outside route. Of course, I managed to throw straight at the ground. Now the green is pretty well protected from shots coming off of the tee, but if you get even halfway up the fairway, you have a good chance of getting through these trees and then securing the 3. Good 2, mediocre 3. I finish out with that routine 3. Cue the sad trombone. Hole 15 comes in any color you like, so long as it's blue. There are no gold options. And now that I mention that, the same was true for the previous hole. And that's where we get into another kind of mild criticism of this course. Each hole is technically unique, but so many of them offer the same kind of challenge. They're tight wooded fairways that are flat and short. There's just not enough terrain here to give you the variety of options that the locals are trying to build into this course. Hole 16 does offer us a gold pad. It's down the bottom right on this map. It is a tight, wooded, flat fairway, but at least we're throwing 335 this time. Also, we're back on those patio-style pavers, and you can see on this one just how much they've shifted. At 335 feet, you want to give a good full rip on your drive. With me throwing a putter, I fall quite short again, but it's a pretty straightforward par. Hole 17 Gold offers another fairway with scattered trees and plenty of lines through them. I think the hyzer route is probably the best bet for this particular hole, but because I was working exclusively with putters and, well, that's my harp I just threw, I kind of attacked straight at it. I got really lucky with the trees, ended up with a circle 2 bid, which I'm going to miss, and then it's a simple putt out from here. The final hole plays back out into that wide open field, and the gold basket is the one out there in the middle, not the one along the edge of the woods. While I play out this last hole, I'll give my final thoughts on the course. For a long time, this was the only course on the Cape. The nearest courses were Borderland, which is an hour-long drive away, or Nantucket, which requires a boat ride to visit. When a course is the only game in town, it receives a lot of love, attention, and it earns a loyal following. Burgess has all that. But the sad reality is, it's an old course that was built back when the Inn of a Rock was a distance driver. The game has changed, and this plot of land doesn't have the terrain or the acreage to keep up with the times. Making matters feel a bit pitiful, they've gone and named their 1.5 layouts blue and gold. Well, a blue layout is supposed to be based on par for a 950 rated player, and gold is supposed to be for a 1,000 rated player. I don't have a rating, but my game compares with people who are like 910 or 920, and I'm throwing below par with putters while I'm relearning how to throw. 6 of the holes are under 260 feet. Now, the PDGA suggests that if it's under 260 feet for a gold course, it should be a par 2. And the PGA says don't build par 2s. That's how far this course deviates from standard design. Simply put, both the blue and the gold courses should be labeled as whites. But let's add to the madness. Did I mention that they have a set of white tees? Yeah, these white tees are basically kiddie tees, or for brand new players just learning the game. That white layout wouldn't even qualify as reds at another course. Now, as I was tossing some putts at the end of the round, my buddy Jason snuck up on me, and he offered to take me to a new course in the area, Oak Crest Cove. And this is a new course that is being built not 10 minutes away. It was my first time playing there, and being as new as it is, the course is still a little bit rough. I'll probably wait for it to get broken in before I do a full review, but my first impressions are very positive. So that's something to look forward to, and it's the end of this episode. So stay frothy, my friends.